Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're doing this thing here on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, I got to say, there's so much opportunity for players, young and old, when it comes to this roster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I see there's a lot of stuff out there with breakout players that has taken place out there with amongst the Duval Devout and the Duval Nation, such that is, don't worry, we're coming up with that on Sunday. But, and by the way, there's top 5 lists out there. I'm not knocking lists. We like them all, but I mean, we might even have more than 5 players when we focus on with that. Anyways, enough with the teasing. But we have candidates for comebacks left, right, center, in every different direction. And as behind the curtain a bit, as you Duval divers may very well know, we have conversations leading into this. Now, if my intro sounds a bit more staggered than usual, I'm doing the thing that Travis and I normally do. You members out there, you Duval divers that are in the comments, you drive this conversation. And there's a player brought to my attention in the comments before we started the show that I know good and bleeding well we had not considered. But I wanted to bring it up anyway before we get into our show proper. Travis, I know I'm hitting you off guard, but you know what? I got hit off guard by it too. Reyes in the comments, in case I don't make it, my biggest bounce back candidate is Walker Little. Contract year, lost his job last year, and injuries. I think he is going to be motivated to show the Jags in the NFL he is good. Travis, I'm going to lead the conversation by saying this. What he's saying is possible.
Yeah.
It won't be in a Jaguar uniform.
But you can be a comeback player just for a different franchise. That's a real thing.
We're on the page, dog. Exactly.
No, you're not wrong, but it's possible. It's possible, but also a high bar. It is a very high bar. If you want to start, I mean, that's
if that bar were any higher, a giraffe would get drunk in that ish. You know what I'm saying?
It is simply a scorching hot take to believe that. It's not to say that, you don't know where exactly Cole Van Lanen is going to be in his recovery process. So there is a realm where that actually does land and it does actually materialize. I just don't know that I believe that, based on what we've seen from Walker Little so far in the past, and knowing what the Jaguars have on the top of their schedule, the front of their schedule. So knowing that, and knowing those defensive fronts that they have up early on, I'm like, if you believe that, God bless you. But also, I would be more comfortable with that not being the case for the obvious reasons.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, if he has a bounce back, it could be for the Raiders. You never know. So it won't hurt the Jaguars at all. And it would still help their cap. And B, it's one of those things where it's creative. I just don't know, man. But Reyes, I appreciate you for putting it in there. And I wanted to express and reiterate that just because the Jags may not view him as a top guy doesn't mean he's not an upgrade somewhere else.
Right.
Gladstone, again, still Gladstone.
He's at minimum, he's an average, left tackle. He may even be considered an above average left tackle. So overall, I'm not against the thought process of maybe that could be a guy who gives you everything you need in a small spurt. I'm not against that. I just don't know that I believe that's going to be the case with who they face off against in those first, whatever it is, 5-6 games. And that's the problem, because if that was your easiest stretch, you might be able to get away with it. Because I think Walker Little got away with it at the end of last season in that easier stretch of the season, also 2 or 3 game stretches.
But by then, Cole Van Lanen was starting to take the helm to keep that from happening, to your point. Timmy Devil in the comments, our favorite friend of me. We've seen Walker Little long enough. I think we know who he is at this point. I agree with that. This is the part I'm not sure about. Wasn't good enough to beat out Cam Robinson after an injury and lost his job when it was his for the taking. I'm a little confused. I thought he ended up beating out Cam Robinson after the 4-game suspension he served. Yes and no.
It depends on how you want to look at it. Because
I'm not saying it's a quality thing too. he stayed hurt and kind of was getting old too. I mean, that's an element.
Yeah.
So I hear where both you're coming from.
Cam was done at that point.
Yeah.
He won it, but it didn't feel like a dominant win. But it felt like it was deserved. And that's a different thing. There's a different dynamic there when you say someone quote unquote deserves a position because they've been quote unquote screwed over by an organization. That was the philosophy surrounding Walker Little for a very long time, because people were like, he played well enough to probably have earned an opportunity to be a starting guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars, with Cam Robinson being so injury prone, but also he never was dominant enough where you felt like he actually earned it. Like, it was a weird line to kind of walk. It was a weird tightrope to kind of walk with the Cam Robinson situation. Not significantly different than now you're looking at with Walker Little being the guy who was on the outside, with Cole Van Lanen being the guy in front. Like, some people thought Cole Van Lanen's extension was a little too early. And I'm not necessarily here to disagree with him. I thought it was a very quick decision. And then the guy also gets hurt, and now you don't know if you want to have that same guy back. So I understand the arguments on both sides of this, but it is what it is. We're here now, man. And I still don't believe it.
Well, and Timmy Devil brings up Tony B, obviously Big Man Baselli, the current EVP for the Jacksonville Jaguars football operations. Didn't like that he was given that contract when he was on the radio. Tony B didn't think he was good enough. There's two different things we're conflating there. Walker Little was good enough to be what he was. He darn sure, and I think we both said it here on the dive, Travis, that he was overpaid by the Bulky administration, right? So
I just thought it was a weird signing to even allow your general manager to make that signing. But if you were a regularly ran organization at the time, that would have been the understanding. But because they thought that they were keeping Bulky, then of course you're going to let him do what he needs to do.
And because Trent Bulky had
ended up leaving after that,
and because he was Littlefinger, he had a lot more control than maybe he should have.
Yeah,
Man. So that thing too. I'll quickly address this. Jaguars GM in the comments. CVL could have an in-season battle. Guessing you think he's a deadline candidate. SOT. No, actually. And this is a good point. If you're not sold on Cole Van Lanen yet, completely cool, because the amount of time he's been unavailable is a completely legitimate point to bring up. The fact that he's an injury concern heading into the season, completely legitimate point to bring up. But healthy Cole Van Lanen, I think with beyond a reasonable doubt, we can guess he's beaten out Walker Little as a starter at left tackle. Now, there's other dudes that could get involved. I want the point to be made, in a world where James Gladstone and Liam Cohen are calling the shots.
Sure.
Nothing is certain in camp. And from that standpoint, you're 100%.
It's so funny, though, because we didn't even plan on starting the conversation here, but we've already started the offensive line. We started talking about Walker Little. Let's switch right on over to Cole Van Lanen. I mean, that's where we're at right now anyways, right? You mentioned the fact that he's an injury concern. And that piece, you got Cole Van Lanen. He was 17th of all tackles in the 2025 season per Pro Football Focus with a 78.7 overall grade, 18th in pass block grade, 20th in run block grade. Again, that's all putting him at an above average level. You mentioned his injury history. He had the knee injury at the end of last season. He had the shoulder injury entering the 2025 offseason that resulted in him missing much of the offseason program. And the only other injuries he had recently, at least, was the hamstring injury back in the 2022 season. That's me just quickly looking that up per the Googles. So if I'm missing something, don't hit me up. I get it. But overall, like, he reasonably seemed worth the contract. I'm not going to say that. I just thought it was quick. That was my only big thing about it.
And it was off of only a half a season of production where he's been struggling with getting on the field due to injury for some time. So, and that, by the way, anybody wondering, Cole Van Lanen's a comeback candidate? Yeah, this is why. Is because that cloud still reigns over his ability to play in the coming season. And he also missed the playoff game last year, which was a huge determining factor. But a determining factor.
And has not been on the grass so far this offseason to make you not fully know when you have a big guy with the knee. That's always going to make people nervous. Just like they made people nervous in the draft when you were talking about the guy from the Gators defensive lineman. It was a cold, big guy with a foot. So it's always going to be those kinds of conversations. But if you're looking at his play on the field, obviously he had a great season. Like he allowed 22 protections in pass pro. That was with 1 sack and 5 hits allowed on 352 passing snaps. Reasonably clean on penalties. He only had 4 on the 632 snaps. And I honestly forgot until I was preparing for this podcast that only about half of his snaps last year actually came at left tackle. He had a quarter of his snaps at right tackle when Anton Harrison had his knee and his ankle injury in week 11 and 12.
I forgot about that, actually.
Right. And then he had his another 46 snaps at right guard for Patrick McCarry, 72 snaps for Ezra Cleveland over at left guard for that game. So, like, just having him play one stable position in 2025 for the entire season with the next guy consistently next to him should hopefully produce some like consistency, some cohesion with him and Ezra Cleveland or Emmanuel Pregnant or whoever that's going to be at that left guard spot. So I'm like, that should be.
We see King David tends to agree with us in the comments as well here. With that in mind, but yeah, we got Cole Van Lanen we talked about there. So I mean I think that's the offensive line portion of the bounce back / comeback conversation. Surely listen, I think we're in a good space to get the obvious out of the way there. We'll leave the offense for a bit and stay in the trenches for sure for the next candidate. And I saw at least one person have it in the comments. Travon Walker. Obviously, right? Man. There's a lot that this team is depending on that they didn't get last year, Travis, in the defensive trenches, right? I don't think I'm saying anything outlandish. Now, when it comes to defensive ends, I'm not going to say they didn't get everything they wanted. Well, no, they didn't get everything wanted, but they got a lot that they needed, like Josh Hines-Allen doing his point to make life easier for other parts of the line. But Travon Walker's injury, and I think we mentioned this last week to some extent, certainly a factor in what we saw throughout the season from him, right?
Yeah. Like he started off the season looking like his dominant self before he got hit with that week 5 wrist injury against San Francisco. And then he had to get the surgery and wear the club for all that time. And then he ended up having the knee injury against the Chargers in week 12. And then he had to wear a brace and he missed multiple games for that. So like overall, Travon Walker's 2025 was absolutely marked by injuries. And if you look at his Pro Football Focus grades that we just kind of had up, his run stopping and his overall score are basically the same as what it was in that 2024 season. And that's why we don't look at grades and we don't look at tape generally. We don't look at just the like PFF scores because we look at tape. We see what we see on the field. And while he had 56, I got it right here. He had 56 pressures in 2024. And in just 14 games last year, he had 42 pressures. So if you're looking at that, it's saying he's getting close. He's around the quarterback. He's putting the pressure on him and everything else as far as that piece is concerned all throughout the last year. But when you're looking at the tape, he's the same physical dude as his 10 sack seasons in back-to-back years, but his snaps were limited. Like more than it was in previous years, and his biggest issues were just his inability to grab guys when he's by the quarterback. Because again, he spent much of the season wearing a club, and then later had the knee issue. So overall, the data shows us kind of what we saw on tape. It actually doesn't conflict with it in that way. It's kind of saying he was limited. He's a power guy who can't shed blockers because he only got one hand. Can't grab quarterbacks through because you only got one hand. It's the difference of inches, the game of inches. But he wrapped up similar pressures as you would consider in those 10 sack seasons. So that's probably a big reason why he got paid, honestly.
Yeah, and I see a lot of conversation, or saw even here on the dive this past Sunday, around looking for these two to combine for 20 plus sacks. I think provided healthy, which is no guarantee, that isn't unreasonable to expect that. Normally, I'd be like, okay, guys, pump the brakes. But at the level of cash those two are commanding,
it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You say they shouldn't be. What I will say is if they do that, suddenly, okay, maybe they should. Right?
Well, no, I mean, the expectation. When I say they shouldn't be, what I'm saying is it shouldn't be a surprise or or a crazy expectation for someone being paid that amount to have that statistical output. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So you say, look, they paid to be great. Let's not be surprised. We're asking
paid to be great. Go be great. Yeah, that should be the expectations. With great, with great finances come great responsibility. That's the new quote, y'all. That's how we doing this.
With great cash comes great responsibility.
That's it. But
I think this comment goes in with it. Robbie, I'm going to correct something. Not correct it. I'm going to give you an alternative thought process because I think I hear what you're saying here. Robbie Santos in the comments. Big note. Can't look at someone's contract and equate that to their value to the team. I would venture to say that a lot of second-year players are going to be breakout candidates. Yeah, first of all, we're not talking breakouts, right? That'll be Sunday night. That's a conversation and topic we're broaching. It's being broached other places currently. There are lists out there of breakout candidates that I've seen. Yeah. I don't know that a list will do it justice this year because at the factor you make, there's just that many young dudes out there that we have to talk about. So many. Right.
So many as such a young roster with more than half the roster just being first and second year players. Then yeah, you're like, let's have that conversation on Sunday.
Right.
But we're talking about guys coming back. And I'm actually kind of shocked that I looked over on a few sites, including FanDuel, and they don't even have Travon Walker listed as a comeback player of the year candidate. And not that I think is necessarily a strong chance, but I think it's possible. I think it's maybe not even a wild take. I would just love to see what those odds are because everybody love an underdog, man.
Yeah. And see, Chris Jags fan says, quit the bell. Sorry, bro. That's been a thing for years. You're late to the party. Deal with it. Anyway, with let's see, 3 inches from the ground, I still think Travon could be a superstar in the interior. And I think that's another point that makes him this candidate, right? His ability to attack on the inside. And if we don't think Regis is enough, which I see some of you in the comments, you're high on him. If a Roro doesn't deliver, right? If you don't hit on the lottery ticket, they're going to need that.
And 100% an option, and he's a good option at that. Like you've seen him do it in those spurts to know that it's effective. You just want to know you have another guy at edge to take his productivity, so that if he's going to be inside, then you don't want to give up so much on the outside. Well, it kind of nullifies his presence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. But listen, and if you were going to ask me a guy that I don't know that he's the most likely to do it. Yeah. But if it happens, it means the biggest upside for the Jags.
Mm-hmm.
Man, listen, and I know someone's going to make the Niner fan comment. Deal with it. Arik Armstead. If he can deliver 17 games worth of awesome, or at least 13, and it's the back 13, so he's healthy for the playoffs, and then you get 17 games. That's what I think the Jags, of the guys we're going to list here, I think that's the one with the biggest single impact.
That's the one that you need to have the biggest single impact. Now, whether or not he does have the biggest single impact is a whole nother level of conversation because we're going to get into another guy who I think has the ability to have as equal of an impact as Arik Armstead, but also may not necessarily have the opportunity to. But I wrote about Arik Armstead on Big Cat Country. We talked about him last Sunday's defensive breakdown podcast. Like my biggest concern, and maybe even my only concern with Armstead, is whether or not he's going to be on the field on Sundays. Like that's my full stop. If he's on the field, I feel like he's going to be productive enough to make this defense be reasonably, above average as far as the pass rush is concerned. But I know we talk on the side as we get older in age. That normally results in more injuries and more like those small issues they pop up. I'm sorry.
Father time's an a-hole, dude. Right.
And that in very many ways makes, depending on someone who's had the injury history that he's had, to not have ankle issues, to not have calf issues, and not have bone issues, whatever it is, osteoporosis. Hey man, old people stuff. It happens, pop up. So if he stays on the field for 17 games, to your point, he's likely going to be a 7 to 11 sack guy. And I truly believe.
Ooh, dangerous. I like that.
With this team's edge play that we already talked about, Travon and Josh Hines Allen, like with the combination of those guys and him, yeah, I think that's a reasonable landing point for Arik Armstead.
But and I'm gonna meet this point here in the comments from Jaguars GM. Not gonna lie, I think folks are asking too much from Armstead. Okay, listen, if he's in there and gets 5 sacks for the season and is still a competent run stuffer, okay. Because you know what that also means, Travis? They probably load managed him. Just the way we talked about they should have 2 seasons ago.
He got 5.5 sacks in the hardest part of the Jaguars schedule last year before he fell off. What we doing? I ain't lowering the bar. Hell no.
No. I'm not saying you can expect more. And I think what this point is, and or maybe I'm getting it wrong, let us know, Jaguars team, if I am. But what I read, but listen, I dig your interpretation. I just didn't go the same direction. You saw, and we got to be careful about, oh, well, he caught 100 passes in one game, so he's set to be a 1,700-yard receiver. Woo! No, that's not how that ish works, okay? But, listen, if with as good as this team is at self-scouting and how much I believe they're capable of being after a 13-win season, they're trying to get that playoff win this season. I don't think that's a bold statement. Sure. I think what that means is just the number is lower. They found enough to load manage him. And there's a comment I'm going to go over. King David, I see you. We'll get to it. That's what I'm going to answer at the end of the show because you're asking me a very interesting hypothetical. But with the other moves made at defensive tackle, with Walker as an option to kick him inside, with all the other movement around it, there's a very real chance load management, as I talked about it 2 years ago here on The Dive, could be a real thing.
I don't know that I believe that. I hope it to be true, and I need to see a little bit more on the pass rushing production on the other guys to believe that that's truly the case. Okay. We talked about this last Sunday. I don't know how comfortable I feel there, but I'm okay waiting to see what happens there because overall, we are like 5.5 sacks, 38 pressures from a defensive tackle who quote unquote fell off after week 12 is pretty dang good. So I'm just hoping that he can make the deal with the devil and hit that 17 game play mark in 2025 because we talked about it Sunday. You have a guy who every time he plays defensive tackle, he just struggles to make the full season worth of games on the field. And that's where we're at right now. It's a car accident every dang snap, especially on the interior of a defensive line. So how can we, to that point, game manage or load manage Arik Armstead to make it to the end of that season? Maybe that is, Albert Regis. Maybe that is Ororo and those guys kind of rotating in that spot and taking some of those snaps off of his body and that load off of his body. Maybe that's the case. And hopefully that is because they need someone else. But I don't know that I necessarily believe in the answers that they've gotten or that they've brought in so far. They're going to have to show me that they can develop these guys to be better than they were in college or better than they were for the Atlanta Falcons or wherever else for me to believe it.
And yeah, listen, for clarity, like we have for extended time mentioned our skepticism at the defensive tackle position. Yeah. So they think they got it. And listen, maybe it's Jack Kaiser, maybe it's Devin Lloyd. I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Unfortunately, I can say that for every single NFL team this offseason is they think they got it. They think they landed the offseason. Yeah, they think they did it.
Well,
congratulations.
I don't know that the Raiders think that necessarily. But
to that point, yeah, I'm going to believe these guys until they show me that they should not be believed in, because I think they've given themselves enough credit and enough cachet based on 13 wins, based on their adjustments in the season, based on the way they built this roster out, all that and more. So I'm okay waiting to see what happens.
Yeah. So no, I'll leave it at that. With that in mind, listen, the other obvious candidate, the guy who I had designs on putting even on the thumbnail at first. But hey, he didn't make it because he was only number 3 in our mind in potential impact. BTJ.
But this is the guy that I said has the skill set and the potential, the ceiling of having an equal impact as Arik Armstead, but maybe not, may or may not have the opportunity. This is the guy I was referencing, BTJ.
Yeah. And I that's a good take. The reason why, and I think you'll agree with this, so I'll say it boldly on both our behalves here at the moment, so people can understand why I think Armstead might be a bigger impact is because there's more receivers around that we believe could pick up the slack. We've talked at length about weapons. If you saw the short on the Duval Dive YouTube channel of you talking about how many weapons this team's about to have in our wide receiver episode, and we didn't even bring up Brenton Strange, as many of you pointed out in the comments. Thank you for that. Or Tanner Koziel, or Nate Buttkicker, as you folks there in the comments love to call him.
Yeah.
The need for BTJ is reduced. And I know Brandon Howard came in and talked about him being the top fantasy threat, rightly so, in my opinion. That doesn't mean they need him the most for playoff success or to get to the playoffs or all of the things. Sure. But boy, it would be mighty nice.
Obviously, like that's the guy overall. But the BTJ conversation honestly kind of feels a little unfair when we're talking about guys who could be, bounce back or breakout. Comeback candidates. Like I won't lie, I thought BTJ was showing kind of significant struggles early on before there were even the whispers about injuries or anything along those lines.
For the first 4 weeks, we were down on him.
Yeah, so I don't want to also then pretend like that's not a thing, but at the same time, I normally reserve comeback player awards or comeback player like tags for guys who miss games because they went on, IR or if they had surgery or something along those lines.
It's not like he's going to get a comeback player of the year award. We don't mean it like that, but this is a dude that can call it most improved if it makes you feel better. But at day's end, the opportunity, the pendulum swings wide enough. Yeah. For the guys we've mentioned that it matters. It's like they did one thing last year and it wasn't that, but we have no reason to believe that they can't be what the Jags want to need from them this season.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But my only point was that I will never be able to fully say specifically what he came back from. And that's my irk. That's my crutch, I guess, in this conversation. Like, other than just saying some general undisclosed wrist or ankle or running injury, but no real specifics. And every single player in the NFL is normally injured yearly and working through something. So then that would end up making BTJ a special case in my mind. And I'm always trying to keep it consistent with you guys. I'm always trying to keep it 100. But if Vegas is saying that he's a comeback player of the year candidate, then I guess he is. Like, this is how it works for me. If they saying it, and that's who sets the bar. So at the end of the day, he's in the bucket of options, and he's obviously going to be a good one for you to kind of peg to say, all right, yeah, I'll bet on this dude. The Jaguars have obviously shown us that they figured out the best way to use him as the vertical Jameson Williams / Christian Watkins threat. He's a year removed from 87 receptions to 1,282 yard, 10 touchdown season. Yeah.
And that's the wide pendulum,
that's
right?
It. That's basically it. Like, and they've been super vocal at every level about getting this vertical passing game going. And we've already kind of seen the glimpses of it in OTAs and in mini camps. So yeah, that's the guy you're going to bet on. That's the guy you bet on every damn day of the week.
Reyes with a fascinating question in the comments. We've kind of moved off of the defensive front, but I think this question is good to kind of put a bow on it. Is it fair to say that depending on the defense, how the defense plays because of defensive tackle, maybe edge 3, is going to determine Gladstone's offseason grade? I love Gladstone, but he didn't address those spots, or at least not to your liking. Technically speaking, yes. Getting a Roro in the building mattered. Getting Albert Regis in the building mattered. So I want to caution you, Reyes, to say that it wasn't addressed, but I think you and I will agree, and I'm putting my name on it. I don't know that it was enough to get it to where you need it to be, right? I've made the point. It's out there in the shorts. The previous 2 Super Bowl winners have in common a redonkulous defensive tackle core. The Jags have far from that. They have one that, if everybody pans, could be solid, but the die roll must be committed first, right? But to pose the question, Travis, I'm actually curious your input on this. The way it's worded is it's going to determine Gladstone's offseason grade.
I think it's the most important position group that may and or may not have been addressed. And for as many years as the Jaguars have struggled since, the 2022 season, to truly get that adequate rotational depth as far as that defensive line is concerned, you're spending another offseason praying to God and whoever you may pray to, whatever God you pray to, that Arik Armstead is going to be able to play.
Right.
Yes. Or that you want to be able to develop one of these guys that you haven't necessarily been able to see do it at a high level.
Yeah.
That's a big ask of the coaching staff, who we're already asking a lot of. And I think we all kind of agree that they are top 10 to top 12 guys in each of those special teams, defensive coordinator, and head coaching rooms. But you're asking more of them if you're also asking them to beat Father Time. And that is a big ask from the general manager and expectations of the staff. So overall, I'm like, I don't know. We're going to find out together. But I think Reyes's point is accurate. Is if that defensive tackle room if things don't go as planned, you're going to be looking side-eye at both James Gladstone and also Liam Cohen. But also, I'm not so off to think that it might be a similar conversation as the running back room. And linebacker.
Well, linebacker, I think, is more accurate. There's some comments here, and there's a topic that I haven't broached yet here on the dive because I haven't figured out how exactly to say it. I might tap dance it a bit here. Yeah. BTJ is clear of Travon and Armstead, says Jaguars GM in the comments. We got by without the 24 version, but to advance deep in the playoffs, we need him and Hunter. Him, of course, being BTJ. I think there's some there. Sorry, run game isn't getting us there. Trevor is. No. Balanced offense is getting this team to the promised land. Now, I'm not here to say that the Jags are here to ground and pound, and I'm going to confuse Liam Cohen for a Harbaugh. No. Here's the part that throws me a bit. The term bad has been applied to this running back core at length, Travis. Okay. If BTJ's comeback, as we hope, is successful, it will be leaned on less. But the running backs in the room, you can call them unproven, which also means saying that this is a bad running back room is inaccurate. You don't know. Okay?
Sure.
You don't know yet. And we know for a fact that Travis Etienne was found wanting and wanted more money. To his credit, he got it. Listen, I think he's a fit over there. Sorry, Alvin Kamara. I think that dude put you in the retirement home, okay? But I don't completely understand the skepticism of the running backs. If you're not convinced by the O-line, totally cool with that conversation. That's a completely different thing. But to put it on these running backs now as already underperforming, I think is premature. We talked about it with B-How. If somehow or another figures out how to get that last step, that one shoestring tackle that stops him from breaking that is to the distance, well, you're going to look silly saying this is a bad group. And I'm seeing it out there a lot in Jaguars media that they are guaranteed bad. Now, I'm not saying they're a lock either. Let's not take Kyle and misinterpret Kyle and say he's a running back stand for this team. But there's a lot of selling going on of this running back core. And at this point, if I'm looking at them as stock, I'm buying because too many people are selling way too early on this group.
I'm good with where they are right now because to Big Game James's point, we've had multiple running backs brought in this Jacksonville Jaguars core and still be able to perform with us not seeing them perform. Like James Robinson was his example. And then also using the Lenny Fournette kind of conversation. Like it didn't matter as much. You can still get moderately quality production from a lot of these guys as long as you can block up front. So that becomes more of an offensive line conversation. And that's kind of what Liam Cohen was talking about when he says he grades running backs on how their ability to make guys miss tackles. We talked about that multiple times last offseason. He said in multiple interviews. So overall, I'm like, well, if that's what he's saying. He's like, I can scheme you up. I can run gap. I can run man. I can run traps. I can run split zone. I can run whatever I need to run to get you into space. Your job as the running back is going to be to get more than I can scheme up. So if they can scheme up an adequate running game, across the board. So then you can't. It's hard to say you're down on the running backs and the running game before seeing what they're going to be good at, because they're probably going to call whatever these guys are going to be successful doing early on in the season. So I'm not down on that. I just don't think that. I think that Jaguars GM, aka Preston, is a little higher on Travis Hunter, and higher on BTJ, because he wants to see more of this downfield passing game, and I'm here for it with him. But also saying, yeah, we don't agree. The run game is most important when you're talking January, and when you're talking December and January, the run game is the most important thing for me, because that's what's going to win playoff football when it matters most.
Well, and that's what's going to close out games to keep guys from getting hurt down the stretch too, right? How many times, Travis, how many times in our coverage of this team have they been short receivers literally because they're starting to fall like flies? It's happened plenty, right? So I think that's a factor too, right? 3 inches from the ground. C-Rod is going to be a tremendous asset. I lived in Maryland last year. That boy was the only reason I watched any games outside of the Jags. There were a lot of injuries there. You're not wrong, my man. Let's see. Social Alki, that comes from reps when he comes to Tootin. Once Tootin gets enough carries, those shoestring tackles were turned into explosive plays. It's almost as if he was a rookie last year or something.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And Preston's point, the backs aren't there yet. By the way, the same way that our friend Jason Trent, aka Jaguars United, is a Trevor hater. If I inverse that, I feel like, Preston, I have your support of Travis Etienne, Travis Etienne. It's hard to say his name and then look you in the face, and I feel like I got the name wrong, and then I remember they have the same name. It's a whole thing, champion. Anyways, but if Travis Etienne, he was good, he's too expensive. Let it go. It's okay, But that being saying, the backs aren't there yet. C-Rod is a short down specialist, sure. Can't be in second or third 5+ yards. I don't know about that. That's a protection play potentially. Tootin isn't there yet. Could arrive in the offseason. I remember calling it like that with one Travis Etienne as well at the time here on the dive years back. Where two situational DCs have less to defend with each back. Yes and no.
Yes and no, but I'm not a fan of everybody in the fan base is too focused, and I'm not going to place it on the feet of fantasy football. I'm just going to place it on the feet of Jaguars not having a high flying offense in the vast majority of my lifetime. And now that they see the traits and the tools of what this could be, everybody wants it to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And I don't want it to be the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Cincinnati Bengals was one hit wonder and they never made it back. And by the time they had to start paying guys, they no longer had the finances and the ability to make a roster that was going to have a reasonable defense and or a reasonable offensive line. So for me, I'm like, nah, I need the run game to be established, and I need multiple years of seeing a run game that's going to be established. I need to see defense established and multiple years of that. I'm not focused on this passing game, and it has to be Travis Hunter, has to be BTJ, all of that. Nah, man. Running the ball, defense wins championships. The rest of that stuff is all great, but you know who beat the 18-0 Patriots? A damn good pass rush and a damn good defense. That's where I'm at.
I mean, facts of the case. This is why we say it the way we said it. I think there's something to that. Let's put a poll on.
We got to get through these last few guys.
Yeah, there's some good comments coming in. I forgot how many of these we actually had, which is cool. Well, I mean, there's going to be
the next one. Yeah, the next one.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot on one particular player. Everybody probably already knows who that is, but nonetheless, here's another one that we have to mention. By design, I can make an argument that a lot of elements of the defensive backs are comeback players of the year candidates. One of them, Caleb Ransaw. Now, I know what you're thinking. The dude never set foot on the field. You have to arrive before you come back, right?
Right.
Sure, and that's a fair point, but we do want to point out his opportunity to exist after an injury. He could And this is what makes it weird. Is he a comeback player? Is he a breakout player? Maybe he'll be both. I don't know. But you got to point him out based on the fact he suffered injury last year.
It's such a weird thing because I don't 100% sure know where he lands.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's necessarily going to be a breakout player because I don't know that he's necessarily going to be able to fight into a spot to be able to get enough snaps to be a breakout player. Yeah. But I also don't know that he can qualifies as a comeback player, but we had to talk about him because he didn't play and they had the spot obviously circled for him to play at. Where Dewey ended up playing significant snaps early in the season last year. So yeah, it's worth talking about while also acknowledging that I don't know what the 2026 season holds for Caleb Ransaw when he had that opportunity that was wasted due to injury in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of there. And listen, keeping the theme of the defensive backs, making their presence known for comeback. Listen, Father Time's an a-hole. Can Arik Murray beat him out? Because here's the thing, Travis. If Arik Murray can't outrun Father Time, they'll need somebody to pick up that slack.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, Arik Murray, I thought he played reasonably well last year, other than his injury and other than his limitations when he was injured. Like he played in 12 games while dealing with a neck injury throughout basically much of the season.
Right.
And I thought he started the season off looking like reasonably like a quality safety. And I know I had my opinion before the season started because everybody in the fan base went far to the right because they're like, we signed a Houston Texans safety and they hated him because the PFF score said he was bad and everything else. And then we looked at the film and it's like, nah, that dude looks good.
Well,
for what they're going to do with him.
I also remembered what he was in the past. Arik Murray has always been a solid player. And I think, with no disrespect to Duval, you were DTWD and I respect it all day. But you looked at the fact that he had had a steer skull on his helmet too long previously. That's all it is. And that's okay. I'm not mad at you. This is why I said I liked it when it happened. And it turned out good. We all won. It's okay.
Yeah, but I thought he started the season off looking like a quality safety. Like he was normally in the right position. He generally didn't bust coverages. He didn't miss tackles. Like basically everything you want from a veteran safety who was brought in to raise the floor. And that's exactly how they commented about him early in that season. But then following his missed time and his injury struggles, we started seeing a few. He's a little slow to get to the point, or a few busted coverages, or a play where he looked to be out of position. Like I'm looking at that Buffalo game and I said, like when they had to bust the coverage on the Kincaid catch, and I was like, oh, you can't do that. Like those types of things. But I'm looking at Murray as a type of guy who will do well with this offseason reset, like just getting healthy, getting back to norm. Like otherwise, he's just going to be a guy who's fighting, with those young safety pushing for a role. But they had him, PFF had him his coverage grade at 60.4, which is 50th among all the 100 safeties. And had his run defense at 67th among safeties. But yeah, I believe him. I believe in Arik Murray just as much as I believed him in much going into last season when I watched that tape. And I'm the only one that was in these streets banging the drum saying that he's better than his PFF scores. So I'm going to stand on it from what I saw in the OTA, still getting his hands on balls and everything else. Just stay healthy.
I would have raised myself and included it, but I remember I don't look at PFF scores because they're ridiculous. But that's me. It's a me problem. I'm acknowledging it.
I look at them and then I look at the tape to verify whether it's right. And I'm so tired of people arguing with me about me not watching tape because
who are these fools in these streams that are saying
all I do? I think it's hilarious when I be like arguing with folks and they'll be like, if you rewatch the play, I'm like, brother, I just got done watching this play 37 times. I tweeted the play out on my socials.
The play.
Maybe you should watch the play. That's all that I'm doing. If we don't disagree on the film, that's one thing. But no, don't tell me to watch the play because I'm watching it like a mother. But that's where I'm at.
Even Timmy Devil's got your back on this one, champion. Murray was there to make the plays. FPFF. I'm with that. But yeah, and if nothing else, I think the statement I would go back to is one we keep making. At the very least, Arik Murray sets the floor. So you have guys, if he gets leapt over, young guys are doing their part to break through the door and get their time. And that's the goal, right?
If someone else is starting over Arik Murray, you should be happy about that. Yes, it stinks that they'll be paying him veteran money to do it, but guess what? That means that someone else made a jump and they took that spot. Not he lost the spot. They took that spot, and that's a great situation for Jackson.
I look at this completely differently.
Okay,
you are investing in a veteran player to make sure the bar is high for your draft picks, so you're in a position to move off them and pull a Fred Johnson if you need to.
I mean, that's true, but that doesn't take away what I just said. Is that it's a bar that they have
I'm not
to reach.
taking it away.
I
I'm
don't
just
see.
turning
I
the
don't.
lens.
I think Eric Murray's skill set is going to be good enough where he's a stable enough guy. He's going to consistently be here.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not you're at the point where you can be above that spot is great.
No, I'm focusing on the part where you said it sucks to have a veteran salary. No, I think that's an investment, not a
sure
a detriment. That's what I'm going after. Everything else you said, perfectly accurate.
No, I fully understand that's the case.
Yeah. Do we go to? I think do we go to Jourdan Lewis?
You want to do? You want to go to Jourdan now?
Yeah, man.
Right,
what you got here to talk about this other cat? Like, I want to rap with that. Yeah, listen. First of all, Jourdan Lewis, and I think it's a similar boat with Eric Murray, right? Yeah. What he brings as he sets the bar. We're calling him a comeback because the amount of playoff including playoff time, I guess, but time that he missed late, that very deeply impacted the Jags, such as they were.
Yeah.
Right.
His foot injury. Yeah. I mean, obviously he had the surgery and everything else. I believe it was a Liz Frank injury to his foot. So that absolutely qualifies him as a comeback player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's just a question of whether or not he's going to be able to keep that very thin margin, that very thin lead that some people in the fan base believe that he has over Jarrian Jones, because Jarrian Jones has also been a man playing with his hair on fire out of the slot. So it's the same thing with that Eric Murray conversation. If Jarrian is able to beat Jourdan Lewis, that just means Jarrian's playing like a freaking man with his hair on fire, and that's okay too. But right now you got Jourdan Lewis, who is both a leader in the locker room, a leader off the field, a leader on the field, and also just happens to be, he's really dang good as coaching these guys up and kind of getting guys organized. That does matter, but at the end of the day, we here to win ball games. So hopefully he can come back and be the guy that we saw early on in the season. But otherwise, I think the Jaguars still are in a reasonable spot. I have him as a comeback player because I still think that he can give you a little bit more flexibility and they can play a lot more dime. And I think he may end up getting an increase in snaps because they have so many options available on this defense.
But that being said, without further ado, and Robbie Santos called it earlier in the show, the timestamp on it is 7:35, 3 minutes into when we started. My obvious candidate is Travis Hunter. Just because the hype is gone in media circles, it is, doesn't mean we still didn't draft a historic player. And that, I think that opportunity is still on the table. And listen, shouts to my good friend Mark Moses of the Mark Moses Show. This crap where he's calling Travis Hunter's a bust is asinine, and I've told him to his face on his show. I'll have you know. Dude could potentially be the best guy at two spots. You're going to call him a bust. Put the pipe down, Mark. Anyways, much love, Mark Moses. No, go hit the pipe.
For me, I want to be very specific because Travis Hunter, you almost have to treat him like two different players. Ooh. I mean, obviously, he plays two different positions.
Right.
I say a bounce back candidate for a comeback candidate. I think Travis Hunter, the wide receiver, is a comeback candidate. I think Travis Hunter, the cornerback, is a breakout candidate. And I want to be clear in what that distinction is. Oh, I see the confusion on your face.
No, this is doubt.
Okay, doubt. Well, there's a lot of ways to look at Travis Hunter at wide receiver because through the first 4 weeks of 2025, they primarily used him as a check down, like drag and slot guy with the easier routes. He had 298 yards in the first 7 weeks when he ended up getting injured. And most of that came in the final 3 weeks, in weeks 5, 6, and 7. That's when he flipped from being almost exclusively a quick target guy early on to being used as more of a deep ball guy. We had the deep ball against the Chiefs, the long catch jumping over two guys. That's the most memorable one.
Well, to some of you.
To some people, sure. But the Rams game was the only one where Hunter received more than 2 targets that was deeper than 10 yards. And that's the one that even shocked me when I saw it. I was like, dang, was it really just that? He had 3 games with 1 long target, 3 games with 2 long targets, and then he had the Rams game with them down 28 points where he had 5 long targets. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he had over 100 yards in that game, but also he had, 2.5 times the amount of long targets that he's gotten in any other game in the season. That could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing, depending on how you want to slice that baby there. But I think if this
Holy
team is
Solomon.
if this team's going to be both a deep ball team, a more deep ball team in 2026, then you have to believe both Hunter and BTJ are going to be able to capitalize on that in a big way.
Yeah, I think okay. So, but the heart of the matter is this.
Mhm.
A BS call keeps him from winning a game against the Bengals because that was obviously a deflected defended
cornerback. I'm viewing him as a wide receiver. I want to be clear.
Oh, no, I know that. There's something else you said I'm calling out that I think is, I'm not going to call it ridiculous, but I don't understand it.
Talk to me.
Your wide receiver breakout, separate conversation. Or wait, is he, you're calling him a comeback player as receiver?
Yes, comeback player as receiver.
I think that's good in and of itself. Wide receiver comeback is good because he had a 100-yard game and then got hooked. Imagine what he could have done against the weaker half of the schedule.
As soon as they started throwing deep, all of a sudden he breaks out. I think he can be a comeback guy. That makes sense.
Yes, that part's cool. How you call this dude a breakout at corner blows my mind because we knew damn good and well he was still going to be a factor. And then we heard he was the factor throughout the offseason. This ain't no breakout. He ain't fooling nobody. He's not coming on the scene. He's here.
He ain't showed me enough. He ain't showed me enough to say he's here.
Oh, so
this DB room right here.
I hear you. But I'm trying to find a way to understand it for me. No, man, I ain't trying to question your expertise. But what I'm seeing is that pick makes me drink on your t-shirt. That's all I'm saying.
Show me the picks.
Okay.
Sure. Show me the picks, and I'll be wrong. I'm okay with that. Like, but at cornerback, I think this is a breakout conversation because I think he's shown me flashes. He ain't shown me what I need to see to say he's here. I mean, they took him off the field in multiple games. That happened. We know that happened. That happened against the Niners.
Yeah.
That happened against Seattle. We saw that happen. The Greg Newsome touchdown don't happen if Travis Hunter's on the field, probably. But he was on the field for a reason. Mm-hmm. Like those things
off the field for a reason.
Off the field for a reason. And I can't tell you why it happened. It could have been load management and everything else. It could have been something else that happened because I didn't see him be beat like that on the field when I rewatched the tape.
Oh, Stones is calling. Maybe he can tell you.
I'm just saying, I recently watched the tape just last night to make sure I'm not crazy. Like, what did I miss that they took this guy off the field? Mm-hmm. And some people have their opinions. I don't necessarily agree with them, but other people have some strong opinions on Travis Hunter because they simply do. But
the way you talk it out, I get it now. Yeah.
But at receiver,
sure.
Hey, man, he was always the guy in college, and you especially using him as a deep ball threat. I'm standing on business when I say, like, I think nothing has changed. And like Liam Cohen says, the plan has not changed. I think at receiver, he is absolutely a guy who can break out and do a lot more, not so dissimilar to the BTJ conversation because he's the other deep ball threat that's on this roster. But sure. I just wanted to give people evidence to what I was talking about earlier. Like, people go crazy about that 100-yard game. The vast majority of that production came when they were down 28-0, and that was nearly 35% of his 2025 receiving yardage. All came in the second half of that game when it was blowout. That was before the Jacoby Myers trade.
Are you playing the garbage time defense? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's not a defense. It's just objective facts. I'm just calling a spade a spade.
No. I mean, it's. I know it's objective. Fact. The reason why I call it a defense is this is the strategy. This is garbage time. This is why you aren't impressed and want more on the receiver front, and why, if he can purvey that, this is the same concept. You're just spinning in a different direction. You've seen flashes. Yeah. You need the consistency. Okay. I get that.
But I also see how they use them. And if they're going to continue using them that way, then I think that breakout is going to be real. No different than Parker Washington. We've seen him break out. We've seen how they use him. So then, if that's the case, then all right, cool. If they're going to use them in the way that we've seen them use them, then that's going to be real. And I think the same thing for Travis Hunter at wide receiver. That's all.
Let's see. Let me go through some of these comments before we wrap up here. Pretty rich Travon in my mind. He was all pro first games. Yeah, we have him on the list. We led with Travon too. Hunter is an MVP candidate.
MVP.
Hold on. Champion, take a breath.
Boy.
If he comes in with the numbers at receiver that you're asking for, and has 7 interceptions, there will be a conversation about him being an MVP candidate. Let's be careful with Preston's wording here. We got to be fair. You're a journalist too, right?
Bro, what we doing, man? Like that may be the eventual ceiling, and I will be right with you, Preston. If you want to tell me that, hey man, by year 4, Travis Hunter is going to be playing enough snaps on both sides of the ball where he's going to be a legitimate MVP candidate because he's going to be able to put up he's going to have enough opportunity in the receiver room to get this kind of snaps, and he's also going to have enough production in the cornerback room to have this kind of snaps. But if you're saying that right now at the start of year 2, I need some whatever you smoking, because I'm sorry, I'm calling a spade a spade. There's no way in hell that is a realistic conversation, and I love you, bro, but no. Come on, say what Stephen A say? Stay up, get off the weed.
Stay off the weed.
I'm gonna always pour cold water on them bad hot takes, because that's literally what's in the description of this podcast, bro. I can't. Friends don't let friends say stuff like that in these streets. You public, bro.
Like, you got to be careful. I might see a comment. Put your glasses back on, Shannon. Like,
that is wild. But no,
I know. But I didn't know you were going to get that hot. I saw you take your glasses off. I got a little scared. Not gonna lie. I wasn't ready.
What? MVP? Let's just keep it in the realm of reasonableness and just talk about Trevor Lawrence MVP. But when you talking about, Hunt MVP. Wow. Anyways, bro. So let's comeback player of the year. You want to tell
me? We don't have to analyze it. I just want to show Preston the respect of standing on business. He's putting his name on it. And damn it.
You told me right now Travis Hunter was going to be comeback player of the year. I got you.
Okay.
Great odds. And you can bet on that right now at FanDuel or wherever you bet. Like, I'm sure Travis Hunter will be there. Like, FanDuel had him listed at plus 4,000. If you bet $10, you win 400 for the AP NFL comeback player of the year. Now, if you believe that, I'm cool. But MVP, sorry, just so you know, for the audio listeners, Brian Thomas Jr. is also plus 4,500. So Travis Hunter.
That's the sweet. I think that Brian Thomas Jr. number is flat robbery.
If you're betting on one, you may as well bet on both. I'm not telling people to bet. I'm just saying,
if
you're
first
betting.
Of all, for entertainment purposes only, clearly. But I wouldn't touch the Hunter thing because he has to do too much at corner, in my opinion, to land that plane. BTJ, if he goes off, bruh. Now, granted, the fact that he didn't suffer an injury is working against him.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah. So, and overall, the only people that we really didn't talk about in this pod, I think, is, you know what? One of them is probably someone that nobody would mention, and I'm well aware that no one will mention him, but I'm still going to say it. Jalen McLeod for me. Because
you still on that McLeod stuff.
I'm still on that stuff. Similar to the Caleb Ransaw conversation. He ain't got nothing to come back from, and we ain't seen him play it down in the NFL.
It's a good thing that cloud is water vapor, not smoke. Because now I'd tell you you're on weed.
If they could say Travis Hunter's gonna be an MVP, then I could say Jalen McLeod gonna come.
I knew you were gonna play that card too.
Gonna bounce back player, man.
Thanks, Preston. Look what you made him do.
As somebody who was a big believer on McLeod coming out as a rotational pass rusher, I'm not going to give up on him just because the guy got injured in his first offseason. Going on projection from his college film, I still believe he may be able to help this team in a rotational pass rushing role this year. And if he can do that, I'm calling it an early win in my book. That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying he's got to be 10 sack guy. If he can help, give him 3-4 sacks. Any production, it's an early win.
We have always had a wide gap on Jalen McLeod. I'll say that.
I know. But Patrick McCarr is the other one.
That's
the other one.
Fascinating. I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't go over that. Yeah, that's a good call, Travis.
We skipped over him after the O-line, and I was like, that's right, Patrick McCarr. I mean, he was hurt as early as the offseason. So it's hard to call him a comeback player when he was technically always there and kind of never left, but also was injured the entire dang time. But
it's the Cam Robinson effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's Cam Robinson. Like, he played through many of his injuries, and unfortunately, he took a hit on his reputation in the process by playing through those injuries.
He matches you here, at least. Preston in the comments, Travis convinced me on McLeod. Gardeck is still the guy, but Oh boy.
I don't know that I want to be on the same page selling Preston on these sales pitches, because if we on the same page, then does that mean I have to believe that Travis Hunter is going to be an MVP candidate in the year of our Lord 2026?
No, it does not.
Oh man.
Interesting point from 3 inches. Not an MVP, but defensive player of the year is certainly attainable, a la Patrick Surtain.
I mean, that's true, because it's an up and down thing with defensive player of the year. If you don't have a ridiculous number, like a ridiculous sack guy, as far as interceptions, the leader in interceptions changes year to year so frequently that's actually a real thing.
Social Alki, can Travis Hunter, be all pro for 2 positions? I'm gonna need you to table that, because we might need to have that conversation.
All pro for 2 positions.
Can
we get one? Just give me one. If we can get one, we're talking Jalen Ramsey territory. If we get the other one, we're talking,
we're talking unprecedented.
Yeah, I'm talking about Jaguar wide receiver was an all pro. I'm not sure was Jimmy an all pro?
No, Jimmy was disrespected way too much for that to happen, I would think.
Like,
I'd have to look it up, but I'm assuming not. Yeah.
Wow.
Social in the comments, MVP is a QB award. Isn't that true? We know that for a fact because Run CMC didn't win it last year. Yeah, damn straight. I said what I said. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, the Jaguars have never had a first team all Associated Press pro in franchise history. So no, if Travis Hunter were an all pro wide receiver, then he would be the first one in franchise history. I know so you're asking, can he be one in both positions? I think that's a hell of a bar. Let's just ask, can he be one for
the bar's in heaven?
Right there.
Is that the inverse of the bar is in hell?
Yeah, if the bar's in heaven, because boy, that's a question. I had never thought of that one, man. Okay, cool.
So yeah, I think that'll wrap us up for the bounce back episode. Listen. Maybe we won't call HR for this episode. We don't need anybody on the show or in the comments drug tested for any particular tape. Not that I'm mentioning any in particular, but yeah, fun time today, everybody. Travis, tell the world where you can be found, please.
You guys already know, bigcatcountry.com. Check out all our written coverage covering the Jaguars. So many new articles out. I forgot what's the most recent one at this point. I ain't sleeping, y'all. Can you tell? I'm watching film at 2 a.m. and then people are exclaiming that I'm not watching film. Oh man. Bigcatcountry.com. Hit me up on those socials, Travis D. Holmes. Obviously, click the like button. If you're here, you're literally listening, you're literally in the comments, do us a favor and click the button, click the link. It helps us out tremendously, and it hurts you in no way. If you're on the audio side, please rate and review us. Maybe even leave a comment. That helps us out.
Gently
also.
Tickle the like button while you're there.
Tickle
Why not?
The like button. Throw a chair at the like button. Do whatever you got to do to make sure that thing clicks, because again, it helps us out tremendously, and it doesn't hurt you at all unless you're throwing a like button, throwing a chair at your phone. Then please don't do that. And get your local librarian to read you the Big Cat Country articles, because we appreciate that too. Click the link, support local journalism. And while we're at it, man, let the folks know where you can be found, Sir Kyle, the student of the game, Nash. Let them know, man.
No, thanks, brother. I by the way, I saw in the comments earlier somebody asked if Regis comes through to essentially make Arik Armstead less necessary, who would be my next impact guy to make a comeback? Yeah, the answer is Travon Walker. I almost said BTJ, but no, it's Travon Walker. Simply put.
It needs to be defense from my perspective.
I mean, and now we don't call it a homer take because the offensive guy said it too. Oh, but it's a homer take because it's trenches. I don't know. Anyway, of course, I'm Kyle Nass, the student of the game. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find my Facebook at the student of the game. Check out my writing covering and other things, by the way, covering UCF Night Zone, and Locked On UCF, as well as my work covering the UFL, the United Football League's Orlando Storm on the Storm Surge podcast. We're going through our top plays of the previous season, and showcase time is coming shortly. So for you spring football fans out there, we're taking a close look at that as well. Of course, my work covering the Orlando Magic, 1010xl.com, Orlando Magic Central. You'll find my work there as well. And listen, I'm gonna have a little something to write about involving the performance of Noah Penda in the G League action there in Vegas. They're in the playoffs, but just looking at the air quotes regular season portion of Summer League there with the G League, Noah Penda's been doing some stuff. I'll talk about that there as well. I think that's all the things. So with that in mind, my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, you divers in the comments, and anybody within the sound of my voice, an honor, joy, and privilege. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed. Preston saying Travis